good afternoon, everyone. My name is Raman, and I founded nexquare 3 years ago. By way of background, I used to be a partner at McKinsey & Company. I spent a long time with McKinsey, and 3 years ago decided that I want to do something that was a bit more interesting, something a bit more personal, so we set up nexquare. And the idea is, how can you really use data to help reimagine and redefine systems of education? So education has intractable problems as an industry, and I've spent a long time in banking. And what we used to do in banking many years ago, you can see that education as an industry is still not doing that. But however, that is also the opportunity. I think particularly we are based out of Dubai. So in the markets that we look at, which is Middle East, Africa, and Asia, there is an opportunity to actually step change and come up with new systems of education, and that's really what we want to help power. So clearly education has a data problem, whether you look at it from the point of view of a government, a country, all the way down to that of a classroom. If you think of a country, you've got a ton of data coming in from different sides. You've got policymakers seeing data about students, about education, about records, about learning systems, and somehow they're swimming in a ton of data without really knowing how to use that effectively to drive policy or to simulate policy. You break that down and come all the way to a classroom. A teacher, a student has got a ton of data, SIS, SMS, LMS, you've got all these systems feeding a ton of data, but really, are they able to get the right data at the right point to help make a decision? That's where the challenge rises. So our view is, how can we help do that? And towards that, we've built a system that is currently deployed and powering a few countries in the region, in the Middle East. Our focus really, as I said, is Middle East, Africa, India, Pakistan, and Asia. And for those of you who may not know these markets more closely, it clearly is an exciting place. I think 2/3, or I'd say 1 billion students, 3/4 of the global population is based out of there. And if you think of the addressable revenue pool, as far as we are concerned, it is significant. $5.5 billion of direct addressable revenue pool in the Middle East, Africa, and Asia, going all the way up to 14. And if you deep dive into a couple of these markets, just in Africa, the total spend in education and private sector investment is expected to be $16 to $18 billion. Saudi Arabia has had a 60% jump in private education spend, $7.5 billion. But however, one has to bear in mind that this is a large market. You think of Middle East, you think of Africa, you think of Asia. These are very, very different, very, very unique markets, and the context is also very unique. The difference with us is we actually have understood these and we adapt to these nuances. What does that mean? So these are some of the principles we bore in mind as we built our platform, because it's important to be relevant to context. For example, if you take curricula, there are maybe 30 to 40 curricula that are important in these markets. And each of these curricula are run in a very different way. So as you want to understand the data and play it back to the school or play it back to the government, you have to understand the context very well. It has to be easy to implement. You can't spend 6 to 9 months implementing a system. It has to be quick. It has to be a single platform. Only then will you be able to break away from data silos and so on. And most importantly, it also has to have an offline capability, because not all these schools have got relevant and consistent access to internet. So we've built a first-of-a-kind adaptable platform for educators, policymakers, and schools, and it can be architected to context. So the same system works, one system works from countries to classrooms. It's got multiple layers and multiple capabilities that you can use in the context of a government, in the context of a school, or in the context of educators. Let me give an example. So in the case of UAE, it is a futuristic project they've embarked on, building an education to employment capability. 5 government agencies, 1 billion data points. They're trying to map a child from kindergarten to employment and trying to see how can you find interesting insights and how can you use those insights to drive policy making to improve employability. This is something we already are powering. A very different example, Aga Khan Education Services, 220 schools, 10 countries, 75,000 kids. From offline schools that are in remote mountains of Pakistan to the most posh IB schools in Africa, in Mumbai, and in the Middle East. They've got a challenge out of Paris. They want to see what is happening across this entire ecosystem from one central location. They've tried to do it, they could not, and now we're working with them. They've got multiple curricula, multiple countries, multiple languages, and we've been able to help power that.
With more than 100 offline schools in remote locations, the challenge we have is how to help these schools track and improve their academic performance and know where to focus and when. Insights are usually 3 to 6 months delayed, where the entire process is manual. With nexquare, we are working on a pilot to connect offline schools, and soon we'll have near real-time insight as the data starts coming in. This will be remarkable in terms of what we could do.
So clearly, education will transform the world, and that's one of the reasons why I left the firm, the idea being, how can you help change the world through education? And what we have here are ready-to-deploy systems that are currently powering governments as well as school groups in the Middle East and Africa. And we've, of course, we're very proud and happy that we won a lot of recognition for that. And for those of you who are interested to learn more, we're down at the marketplace. Would be happy to talk more. Thank you.